Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy. This episode is part of our sports series. If you haven't gone back and listened, we encourage you to start with episode 37 to get an introduction to dog sports. What are we talking about this week, Heather?
We are going to be talking about one of my favorite sports, and that is dock diving. And we have a special guest with us that I'm super excited to have. Welcome to the show, Cady Jones. Thank you so much for being with us, Cady.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Is this your first time ever being on a podcast, Cady?
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you being willing to go out on a limb here and do this with us because I think that you're going to be a really interesting guest for people to listen to for a lot of reasons. So let's get right into it.
Right.
Cady is someone who has quite the menagerie of dogs with her and her husband. So while we normally ask, tell us about
each
the
of your
dogs,
dogs.
each of the dogs you live with, and something about them. In this case, we're going to ask you, can you tell us about a couple of the dogs that you live with and your favorite things about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I read this question, I was like, who do I pick?
I was curious, who's she going to pick? Because you do live with 12 dogs. We'll just tell
Yes.
everyone. And it's a
Mhm.
variety of breeds. So who are you going to choose?
So I have to start with Ruger. He is my
Yes.
OG. He is my old man. My husband jokes that I married him for his dog because he had him before we started dating.
He was his
Yeah.
dog. Okay.
Yeah. He's really the reason we got into dog sports. You know, he's a cattle dog. He will be 11 in September or October, I'm sorry. And I am really coming to terms with that because it's just like that also means I've known my husband for 11 years, so that's crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, he made me fall in love with the cattle dog breed. He's your backyard bred $200 dog off of Craigslist. You know, my husband didn't know what he was doing when he first got a dog, but he still, even though he's going to be 11, he acts like he's 4. He'll play ball until he drops. I mean, that's just how he is. But yeah, he really got me into dog sports. And then it was more of like a combination of dog sports, and then training really got me into getting more dogs.
So basically, Ruger was your gateway.
He's my gateway drug. Yes, that's what Keegan calls it. Yeah. So then I narrowed it down to 4. So my next one I was going to talk about was Ollie, lovingly known as Potato.
I love that.
Yeah, he is my corgi mix. I call him a Mexican street dog because he is from Barb's Dog Rescue down in Rocky Point.
Oh, that's where my brother's dog is from.
Oh yeah, really? Yeah, I have 3 from there, so clearly I need to get off Facebook. But he is my trick dog. He got me into trick training. He is food motivated like no other. He also, this was kind of just, we fell into it. I needed to do a trick for do more with your dog title, and one of them was weight pull. And I was like, oh, he could just throw a harness on and we can just see if he'll just drag something around. Well, it turns out he's actually pretty good at it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
We're doing a weight pull episode, and I was like, Trin has to do weight pull.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
We need more little dogs.
Well, now we have someone locally, Christy, that we can talk to about weight pull.
Yeah. So his personal best in weight pull is 1,200 pounds.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. He really I joke that I try really hard not to play favorites, but he is my heart dog. He has my heart.
Aww.
Yeah, he's my little potato. If I had it my way, he would sleep in the bed every night, but my husband doesn't approve of that sometimes. But then my next one is Cheyenne. She's another cattle dog. I got her from Healing Healers Hearts Rescue in Surprise. I always refer to her as my do-it-all dog. We adopted her about 2 years ago, and she's picked up on disc, dock diving, fast cat, agility. Like she pretty much does everything I throw at her. She loves to work, and she's really my first female dog that I've ever had a working relationship with.
Oh,
yeah,
that's special.
I usually bond with the boys because the one I was going to bring up next is Pico, and he's my whippet. He's going to be 2 this year. I just really bond with boys. I don't know why. I think maybe it's just because they're dumb and lovey, and you just want to. But the females really test you.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and her being a cattle dog, but she's really pushed me to be a better handler in all the
Aw,
sports that I do. So I really do love her. She's currently the #2 cattle dog in Fast Cat right now, speed wise.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty crazy. She ran a 6.63 in Oklahoma this past summer, and I was just blown away. But then, yes, Pico is my 2-year-old whippet. My friend got me into sight hounds, the same friend who's my trainer. We became friends, and then she was the one who told me after 4 it's easy, and I took that literally. Um,
And is your friend a liar?
at this rate, it's like, what's another?
Oh my
just
gosh,
throw another
no.
one.
Because I have a friend who, her and her husband breed pugs, and she also says after 4, what's another? And they're in
Mhm.
double digits usually.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
happened.
But pugs are
Yeah,
quite
so
small.
they are. I try to keep it around medium to small dogs. I always joke that the little dogs are like half a dog. So you just
I understand
you're
that.
like, so Chiquita and Potato, there's just like one. It's not, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's the Chiquita potato.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Pico, he's my first working sight hound because I have an Abisan hound, but she's kind of lazy and loves her dad and she enjoys sleeping all day. But Pico's like my first race bred whippet that I've gotten. And he's a really close second to Potato as far as heart dog goes, because I love working with him. He's a challenge because he is a whippet, but I enjoy it. It's kind of interesting working with a whippet and then working with a cattle dog. It's just seeing the differences. It's pretty cool to see.
We
But
are
yeah, that's
very intrigued by that. So we're definitely going to talk about that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you have 12 dogs. You talked about 4. Just so whippet, cattle
Mhm.
dog,
Mhm.
mixed breed,
Yeah.
Iberian hound,
Mhm.
any other breeds? Oh, French bulldog.
French bulldog. Yep. And I joke that I have cattle dogs, but they're all shapes and sizes.
It's kind of like having pit bulls. They're all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, like I have Duke and Ruger, her like your traditional cattle dog, what you
Yeah.
picture, and then Cheyenne is more lanky. She was found on the res as a puppy, so
Mhm.
I've been meaning to do an embark on her to see what she like is, but she definitely looks cattle dog.
Mhm.
And then I have Tex and Chiquita, and they're both like 20 pounds.
Mhm.
And they're little guys. I did do an embark on Chiquita, and she's 100% cattle dog, even though when people look at her, they're like, there's no way this dog's 100% cattle dog. But yeah, and then my 2 sight hounds. And I do also have a lab. We can't forget about
Oh
Roger.
my gosh, how did I forget about Roger?
Yeah.
Roger's the bomb, Christy.
I
Like
love him.
Roger could make me
a lab
person.
I mean, Roger
That's what I
is
get.
that special. Okay.
Aw.
And he's gorgeous. So how could I forget Roger? So you have that's very interesting to me that you have all those different varieties, and we'll talk about that. But you touched a little bit. We're here to talk about dock diving, but you're pretty much active in every sport.
Yeah.
Is that
Pretty
right?
much.
Yeah. So you mentioned weight pull, trick, disc, agility, and fast cats. Are
Barn
there
hunt.
barn hunt? Okay.
Barn
Are
hunt,
there
yeah.
other sports that you're in?
I have done scent work classes. I've never actually trialed in it. And then I have done rally classes, and I do plan on trying to trial this year with my other cattle dog bandit. But yeah, that's about all the sports that I do. I haven't really gotten into obedience. I like train obedience, like just for fun at home, but nothing like serious.
Does your husband, he handles some of the dogs too, though, right? So you guys you're all in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my husband and I, backstory, but my husband and I actually met at a dog daycare facility.
No way.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an amazing way to meet somebody that you're not going to ever have to question whether or not they like dogs. That was very smart on your part.
Yeah, the only guy working at the daycare.
And you got him.
That was very, very smart.
Yeah. So he had Ruger and we worked there together. And so, yeah, it's like, I joke that there's no voice of reason in this relationship. So that's why there's so many dogs, because he's like, well, sure, why not another? Let's just get another.
I mean, if you met at a dog daycare, like you basically were around a million dogs. So
Yes.
why not 12?
You're
Exactly.
basically doing doggy daycare now. Just with your own
Exactly.
home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no different. Cleaning, doing
Yep.
all that stuff.
So true.
Can you tell us a little bit about dock diving and what it is?
Yeah, dock diving is a competitive event where dogs are judged on how far they jump from a stationary 40-foot long dock. Typically, you use a toy to throw into the pool to get your dog to jump. There are a few different dock diving organizations. NADD is the biggest. They're the ones who recognize AKC titles and all that. But there's also Dock Dogs, Ultimate Air Dogs. And I think there's a new organization called Canine Wave that started in Texas. So I think there's been a couple other people starting their own organizations. But depending on the organization you're competing with, there are typically 3 different events, and Big Air is the most common. Usually each organization kind of has a different term for it, but that's where the dog is judged on jumping for distance. And then there's also Hydrodash, where the bumper is suspended off the water by a rig, and the dog is supposed to swim up, grab the bumper, and bring it back. And it's all timed. And when they get to the 10-foot mark on the pool, that's when the time stops. And the time starts when they hit the water. And then air retrieve is where the toy is suspended in the air by a rig, and the dog can use the full 40-foot dock to run, jump, and grab the bumper from the rig, and you progress based on distances.
You compete with NADD pretty much exclusively. That's what we have around here.
Yeah, there's
in
really no other
Arizona.
organizations out here,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
And then are you doing distance, air retrieve, and Hydrodash with your dogs? Kind of mixture of, yeah. Okay. So you're competing in everything.
Yeah. The 6 that I have that dock dive do distance, and then Cheyenne and Roger both do AR and Hydrodash.
Yeah. So basically, if a dog will chase something off a dock, or they don't even really need to chase something, if they'll jump off a dock.
No.
And for distance, your dog could literally like fall off the dock and it counts.
Yes.
I mean,
actually, yes.
I was looking up French Bulldog stats. Can't imagine why. And there was like a dog with an average of like 3 feet 6 inches, which I was like, if I can get Trin going, she's definitely going to kick that score.
She's got a shot. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's so funny because with distance, you really do. I mean, as long as your dog will go off the dock of their own volition, you've got a qualified jump. Air retrieve is a little bit different because they actually have to be able to get height and then grab the toy as they're getting that height and sort of extend out and then get that distance more and more.
And with air retrieve, they have to knock down the bumper in order
yeah.
for it
to.
Yeah.
I've seen definitely dogs doing, I've seen a dog do over 30 feet in distance because I've saw Sounders jump, which is the whippet who jumps like 36 or something.
Yeah, something insane like that.
Crazy. It's like world record stuff.
Yeah.
And then air retrieve, I've seen dogs in the 20-foot range. Yeah, which are usually bigger dogs.
Yeah, I've seen a friend of mine, her Mal has hit 27 before. So
wow.
Yeah.
So that dog is driving for a toy, having the athleticism to catapult themselves off the dock with height and have the drive to grab the toy. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Insane. It's pretty cool to watch. I really love watching air retrieve. And when I finally got a dog that would do it, I was like, yes, do this now.
Yeah. Are your cattle dogs doing air retrieve, right?
Cheyenne, yeah, she has, I joke, she has all the potential in the world, but she is a cattle dog to a T. She overthinks everything. And there's just some times where she gets to 14 and she's like, nope, I can't do it. No, sorry. Run and slide and bark, 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 bark at the end of the dock. And I'm like, girl, you've hit 16 before. I know you can do this.
Yep. Like,
just try.
Yeah. How do we make it through? Yeah.
And then Roger does it too. But, Roger being a lab, he's like, okay, let's just go. I'll try. Let's
I'll
have fun.
try. Yeah. And like,
Guys.
you have the natural retrieve in there. So it's like
Yeah.
you're stacking the deck in your favor. And then Hydrodash, that's interesting because you're combining the swimming aspect because they're swimming all the way they have to jump off the dock. They're swimming all the way to the end of the pool. They're grabbing the toy and then they're bringing the toy back. So there's a lot of different elements with Hydrodash. And that's a newer one that was added. I don't think that was originally on the docket with NADD in the beginning, was it?
No, I think Ultimate Air Dogs did something kind of similar where
Yeah.
it was like the handler would hold the toy at the end of the dock. So that's a little bit easier because when you have somebody that your favorite person waving your toy at the end of the pool, there's more willing to jump. But when it's just suspended on the rig, sometimes dogs are like, I don't see the point in doing that. That doesn't sound like it's worth it. And
For sure.
training it has been interesting because I've been trying to train my other dogs to do it. And I once tried to get Ruger to do it. And he's like, why do I have to swim all the way down there to get the toy? He's like, normally you're up here throwing it for me. That's easier.
Yeah, exactly.
If you put it down there, you go swim and get it.
Exactly.
So since you have so many different breeds, I mean, I would imagine you have different training techniques for depending on or is it really just individual, not even breed differences?
Yeah, it's breed and it's also personality,
Mhm.
just knowing which dog you know how people always say like train the dog in front of you. Roger, simple, just he had genetics going for him just for being a lab and just had him in the pool when he was like 10 weeks old in a life jacket and retrieving toys. But Pico, my whippet, he took so long to just get him in the water, get him used to it. I swear my mom thought because I would borrow her pool because I don't have a pool in my backyard. I would go over to her house and I'd be like, okay, I'm getting him in the water and I'm dragging him out there, swimming him back. And I'm like, he's going to like it, I promise. And she's like, I don't think he likes it. I'm like, I think he might one day. And I was like, he has it. I could just see it. It was like, he wants to do it, but he's just not sure,
Yeah.
And just convincing that I always say that fear of the water has to be outweighed for that drive for the toy.
Yes.
And he has that toy drive and just now he jumps off the dock now and it took a year and a half, but it's just sticking with it and trying to make them successful and help them understand how it works and everything.
Yeah, Marissa told us that it took her 2 years to get Coda jumping, and now we see that Coda's jumping these massive amounts, and it's like it's hard to believe that dog was ever afraid of the water.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
And Pico wouldn't put his toe in the water when I first brought him out as a puppy, and he was like, I don't like it. And I was like, I promise you will.
You will get there. I swear to God. I will force you. No.
For real. Well, like one of my cow dogs, Duke, he was terrified. Like I brought him to the ramp and I was trying to walk him down and he was just like, no, I can't do it. And I finally was like, do I need to put a life jacket on you? I put a life jacket on him and he was like, oh, I have back legs. I can kick. I can float. And I was like, that's all you needed, buddy? Yeah. Now he won't shut up next to the dock. Now he's just a psychopath for it. So
yeah, it is interesting. I have a friend who has a German Shepherd, Raven, and Raven's already a extremely accomplished sport dog and has always jumped off the dock but not been super successful at it, which seems strange because she's really drivey. And finally her owner went to a seminar and somebody convinced her to put a jacket on, a life vest on her, and now all of a sudden she's jumping like what we expected her to jump,
Right.
but she needed that little bit of confidence when she hit the water. And sometimes even though the dog can swim and is good at it, it doesn't mean that they don't need that little assistance. And when they're excited and they're hitting the water and they sink a couple times, that can really break their confidence and make them unsure. Yeah.
That's what I said about Pico. I was taking baby steps because I didn't want to kill the little bit of excitement that he had for it. And I worked on the ramp for months, just sending him around like a disc throw and throwing the toy out there, and him finally figuring out to go up, retrieve, and like just make it positive, make it fun, and we'll get to the jumping part eventually. He's going to be 2 this year. It's like he's got plenty of time.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, my dog's not good at it because they didn't go off the dock right away when I first brought them in. I was like, no, sometimes it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have to just be patient and you might.
Especially when you are looking at a breed that it's not like they're not a natural retrieve or a natural like go breed. We're sort of going against who they are a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not a German short hair pointer, so, or a lab.
Yeah.
We're, you know, taking whippets and French bulldogs and these different things and asking them to do, it's a big ask, you know,
It is.
so
Yeah.
we need to make sure that we're building up that confidence. And then we have Christy over here who, you know, adopted her foster who just jumped off the dock.
Right. I know.
First lesson. First lesson. He was like, oh, so like this?
Yeah, exactly. I always joke with people. It's like, you're so lucky. You don't understand
I know
how hard it is. Once I finally got Roger, I was like, oh, so this is what it's like for it to be simple.
We just have to make it more difficult for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I looked at Christy and I was like, seriously? I was like, he's already jumping. Now you just have to work on form and stretch. I hate you right now.
Exactly.
And she's like, I don't know, maybe we'll compete. And I'm like,
I mean, he's making me level up, like to the sport. And he's like, let me just jump on this surfboard that happens to be in the water and see what this is about. Willing to try all the things. And then she's shaking the surfboard and he's like, well, that's fine. I don't understand what we're doing, but okay.
Right.
Just no fear.
I know. It's just amazing to see dogs that have zero fear and they're just like, yeah, okay, let's just, you know, figure it out. We'll get through it. But you know, you want me to do this? Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to me to watch Jackson because he's German Shepherd. Okay, I get that. And Chihuahua.
Oh, really?
And a little Stafford thrown in there, but like the Chihuahua throws me for a loop. So I'm like watching the confidence and I'm like, this is very interesting. Yeah.
It comes out like he was scared of a sprinkler this morning in the park. So I mean, there's times, and then he had to
trade-off.
spend 5 minutes investigating the sprinkler to make sure it was not going to do harm to me or him or the neighbors. So
just keeping you safe, Christy.
Yeah. So there are moments the Chihuahua comes out.
Oh, that's so funny. So most people do gravitate. I mean, towards certain breeds. We usually have maybe, you know, one or two, maybe even three that we sort of tend to, or a certain group, you know, like I like the bulliness of a bully dog, right? And I sort of stay there. What makes you continue to get different breeds? Are you just like curious about it? Is it you and your husband combined sort of can't decide? Like what keeps that going?
I would say I love herding breeds clearly because of cattle dogs. I don't know if I would ever do a border collie. That's always like up in the air with me because I'm sometimes the neuroticness of a border collie, like the constant spinning and stuff, like kind of drives me up a wall. But I think, I like the challenge. I kind of like to just look at the dog in front of me and I'm like, well, what could this dog do? What do I think it would enjoy? And just go from there. And I mostly follow like cattle dog rescues and stuff. So I'm seeing a lot of cattle dogs on my feed all the time, which I really need to stop because it's like every day there's a dog that comes up. I'm like, Keegan, maybe we could do this.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get another one. But I think it's more the challenge. I like the challenge of having a different, and also too, like changing up my training styles. Seeing what maybe works for Ruger doesn't work for Duke, or what maybe works for Pico doesn't work for Shay. You know, it's just seeing what things I need to change in my approach, and then I feel like that just makes me a better all-around handler. So then I can handle even different dogs, like when, you know, eventually when I get another dog, or even just handling other friends' dogs too, because like I've handled a Mal before, I've handled a Doberman before, you know. It's just it's fun to see the differences and just see like, well, this is more of a challenge, but you know, it's more rewarding too in that way too.
You're growing your toolbox very, very large, and that's really awesome because it makes you so well-rounded. That's very cool.
Yeah. I think too, it's just I think even within the same breed, they're just so different. Looking at all my different cattle dogs, just one thing that one doesn't like, but the other does. It's just interesting to me. And also too, like their backstory. Tex was found on the street of Tempe, so I had to really work with him to get his confidence going. And now he plays disc just fine, and he's going up to people and he's interacting with people. But Shay was found on the res too, but she's kind of that dog who's just like, oh my God, will you love me, to anybody that she sees. So just like coming that approach of seeing how the personality of the dog too, just watching them grow in that way too, because I really like seeing the shy ones come out of their shell and seeing, oh look, all the work and the sports that I've been doing with them really brought out their personality in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question that's not on the list. Now, I know usually Christy does this.
Yeah, I know.
Does this to people.
I listened to a couple and I was like, yeah, usually Christy gets yelled
Yeah.
at.
So
you see what I put up with, Cady.
I know. So if you love the challenge of sort of like adopting these dogs and kind of like bringing them up and getting them to their fullest potential, what makes you then go and purchase a well-bred dog to start out? Of course, this is not a judgment. You know, it's not. I'm all about.
We are pro.
But what sort of makes you then go and get a Roger? I'm curious.
Honestly, sometimes, you know, it's like I always say, I love my adopted dogs, but they were a challenge and I really had to work with them and I had to fix a lot of things that other people, you know, created, bad behaviors and stuff. And with 10-week-old lab puppy from to, you know, really well-bred dogs, and you just know the genetics that you're getting. It's so simple. It's just like I can throw Roger into anything. I know that he'll be fine. I don't have to worry. And so sometimes it was just like more, I wanted a break. You know, like I wanted to just, you know, I was like, I know what I'm getting with this, and it's gonna be simple, and then I can just focus in on the things I really want to do with him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And the dogs that you're adopting are going to be more of a challenge because you want the drive, you want the work ethic, you want all those things that maybe are not being properly channeled in other homes. Whereas you look at it and you're like, oh, hell yeah, I can do something with that. Right.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. You're not picking a dog to be a pet. You're going out and being like, give me the most challenging cattle dog I can find because it has all of the base material that I know I can turn into a sport dog. So
I always joke, I'm like, I love me a good crackhead, you know, one that just looks a little bit psycho. That maybe just
she would have picked Trin too, Christy, for sure. She would have picked Trin.
I mean, Cady, you are very lucky I adopted Jackson because I would be selling you on him right now.
I know. Why didn't we try that? Why didn't we?
I feel like this is your fault, Heather.
Oh,
that's so funny.
Whenever a cattle dog comes up, everybody of my friends is like, look, Cady, look, there's a cattle dog. Do you want this one? I'm like,
then how did you end up with a French bulldog? And are you sporting with that French bulldog?
So my husband said, I want a cuddle dog.
Oh,
and I was like, okay. And so this French bulldog, her dad, Mella's dad, does bite work and does
very cool.
Yeah. So Keegan's like, this dog's really cool and it can do stuff. And she's a little shit. And she's a little confident shit. I'll give her that. I threw her up on the treadmill and she was just like, okay, let's go. And like most of the time I'm just having to like, here's a treat. Come on, let's do it. And she's had no issue, you know, so she's a confident little dog. And yeah, my husband said he wanted a cuddle dog. So
does she cuddle?
Said, she does. She is sweet. She tests my patience every day because I think it's more just because my husband is so in love with her that he picks her up in the yard and throws her in the air. And I'm like,
how adorable.
Oh yeah. I'm just like, Jesus.
Okay, so that means that Trin and Mello are going to be competing against each other in the future, which will be a freaking blast.
Yes. I plan on taking her to Fast Cat, that's for sure. I have no doubt that she'll chase a lure. I think the swimming and the retrieving toy thing is going to take a little bit, and that's going to just be working with her. Her dad also does disc. It's a Frenchie. It's not going to get major points, but you know, it'd be fun to watch a Frenchie go chase a roller, you know?
Jessica said that she would throw for Trin if I brought her out for a try. So you never know. Yeah, but that's awesome.
It's my little
And
add-on rando.
one thing I wanted to kind of go back to is you mentioned with the rescue dogs that you were looking for all this drive and things. Heather and I have talked about how lucky certain dogs are to end up with certain people because they're like doing sports with them or they step up to whatever that dog needs. And I have to say that is something to consider when looking at a rescue or looking at what breed you want is that amount of drive, because a lot of those dogs would be very unsuccessful in just a regular pet home with a 15-minute walk in the morning and watching soap operas the rest of the day. Like that's just not going to be the life that they can live. And that is the dog I wanted, the 15-minute walk and then let's nap. But that is not, that's not the dog that came to me.
So you're stepping up to the
So I'm
plate.
stepping up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
At
it
least
is
you're willing.
Yeah.
And you want to try, you know.
And I
You
knew
know,
what I was getting into.
yes, exactly.
I think too, it's interesting. And part of the reason why we wanted to do this series, Christy has people like me in her life that's like, hey, you can do all this shit with your dog. And so, and maybe like giving a little nudge, nudge too. And not everybody has any idea the things you can do with your dog. And so I really want to drive home that maybe you're not going to compete with your dog. That's okay.
Yeah.
But getting out there and just doing stuff, it is not about, oh, cool, I do the sports with my dog. It's about building this relationship with your dog. And I promise you, if you are doing these different things with your dogs, they will be easier to live with, hands
Absolutely.
down, because you are building a relationship, you're training, you're tapping into their natural drives, whatever that may be, to do different things. And all around, it's going to change the way you live with your dog.
Absolutely.
I feel like with Lucy, it was just an extra like enrichment item. Did she need it? No. But I just wanted, and people asked, why do you do training with your dog? She's 10 years old, you know, she's 9 years old, whatever. And I'm like, but she just loves it. Like she's so happy doing it that like I just wanted to keep doing things with her. With Jackson, it's a little different. He needs an outlet for all that extra energy.
Because he's
And
young.
so there is, yeah. And so my life is much easier with him. It's not just that it brings him joy, but my life is very easy when I can wear him out doing other things.
Absolutely. And Shay is a prime example of that. She was returned to rescue twice.
Oh,
because they said she didn't get along with small dogs, she had too much energy, you know. And every time I see posts like that on rescues, and I'm like, sounds like the dog wasn't given an outlet, sounds like the dog wasn't given any structure, so it's just going bonkers, running around the house, just like in Disneyland, not knowing how to calm down. And a lot of people ask me all the time, like, how do you have 6 cattle dogs? I'm like, because of structure. This household thrives on structure. There's no way I could do this without structure and training in this house.
Yeah. And I want to be careful to say it. I don't feel like we're judging people who aren't, because this is a lifestyle, you know, making a choice to do all these things with our dogs is a lifestyle, but the competition aspect is more of the lifestyle. Having 12 dogs is more of the lifestyle. Me going out and specifically choosing a particular dog from particular parents for waiting 3 years, that's a lifestyle choice, right? But at the same time, it's just giving people ideas of, hey, maybe my dog is having a really hard time, so I'm having a really hard time. Maybe I should try this thing and see if it makes a difference. And I would bet dollars to donuts that most times it's going to make a big difference. Yeah. We kind of have touched on this already, but I would love to hear specifics. Has there been a particularly hard or easy dog for you to train out of the ones you have right now?
Yeah, we kind of touched on how Pico was a little bit different, and how I had to really be patient with him, just getting him in the pool swimming. It's particularly for dock diving. But I will say, we mentioned her. Chiquita is my little 20-pound fuzzy, stumpy cattle dog that apparently is purebred, according to Embark. She is a psychopath and a nut job, and I love her for it, but she also has the attention span of a gnat. And it's Chiquita's world, and we're just living in it. And when I'm trying to ask her to do something and she doesn't want to do it, we're done. session has to end. And that has been kind of difficult for me to just accept, really, like being like, okay, another day, we're gonna have to stop and just take a break for my own sanity. But then when she does do something that I ask of her, it's so rewarding. It's like, we finally got there. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you finally did this.
Yeah.
And she took a while, like she liked to swim, but I was trying to convince her that jumping off the dock is fun, I promise. And once she finally had her light bulb moment and we figured out what she needed on the dock, she needed my husband to pick her up and walk her down to the end of the dock and drop her like a little race car and run and jump. And then she hits 17 feet in dock. It was just crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. What drew you to dock diving?
So the first time I saw dock diving, my husband and I were at a Sportsman's Outdoor Expo at Westworld. And we were watching it, and we had Ruger at the time, but we weren't doing any dog sports. And I was just like, yeah, this is so cool. We should try this with Ruger, because he likes to swim and he likes to play ball. We might be able to do it. And for a couple years, we didn't do anything because it was more like I didn't know where to start. I wasn't sure where to go to learn. And when I finally took one of my dogs to training, the facility had a pool. And so I was like, oh, so maybe we can do this. And they finally got him into swimming lessons and dock diving lessons. And I think just the excitement and the thrill of seeing the dogs, because when we were at the expo, it's some big jumping dogs, and just seeing them run and jump and catch a toy is just so cool and fun to see. And that's why they have it at the events, because it's cool to see the dogs do these things. But then too, once I got into it and started doing it, I really loved the bond that I was sharing with Ruger in particular. He was the one that I was doing it with primarily before we got the other dogs, and just really growing that bond, because he and my husband are really close. That's his heart dog, but we have a really cool working relationship, and he's like the dog that got me into everything. So I really enjoyed working with him too.
I do love how sports can do that when you're in a couple, because Tater is my husband's dog, but he goes and does the sports with me, right? So it builds like this different relationship with that dog, and it just it adds something, it adds something to our lives, and it adds something to theirs. And it's interesting, people who only know Tater and I at Barn Hunt, they're surprised when I say, he's not my dog, he's my husband's dog. And they're like, really? And I'm like,
this is the first time I've heard that. So
oh yeah.
Surprise.
Oh, he's 100% Jer's dog. But when you see us at Barn Hunt, like, we have so much fun, and we're so into it together. So it's like this special little bond that we have that's just ours. And I love that. That's cool, that because you and your husband had started dating, he already had Ruger. So it's like this way for you to build that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm usually the one who throws for him, and in dock at least. But since he's gotten older, I used to throw for Ruger and disc, and Keegan would as well. But now that he's gotten older, I just let Keegan throw for him. And since we have so many dogs, I just throw for the few of mine.
Options abound.
As far as disc goes, yes. Luckily, that's the cheaper sport.
Yes. Since you do own both adopted and purchased dogs, do you see any difference how they're treated in competition? I mean, you're pretty adoption heavy, so.
Yes. Honestly, not really, at least in dock, no. But I would say breed wise, sometimes they get, because like people see Pico and my Whippet, and they're just like, oh, does he jump 30 feet?
Oh,
and I'm like, he jumps 12 right now. We're figuring it out. It's just like that automatic assumption that he has to be big jumping dog, and that there's no other choice. And that's kind of why I always say to people too, I'm like, there's a reason that there are divisions in the sport, because and that's, I think, why I like dock diving too, is because it's like, your dog doesn't have to jump 30 feet to be competitive. There's a reason there's divisions. So just that automatic assumption, at least for him, and maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. One day maybe he will jump over 27 feet and do that, but I'm not going to put any pressure on him. I'm not going to love him any less if he doesn't.
For sure.
So I would say more breeds, and I think sometimes I see that too when the cattle dogs in, I guess I'm going off on a tangent here, but just seeing cattle dogs, I have a lot of people who tell me, oh, your cattle dogs are so good. Like all I ever meet are psycho crazy cattle dogs. I'm like, yeah, because I don't think people
Because you're
either give
channeling
them
it.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. They're not giving them an outlet, or they're not training them, or just building a relationship with them. I think a lot of people get dogs and then just kind of don't want to do just the simple things of like just even trick training. I built a great relationship, even bigger relationship with Potato, just trick training,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
building that bond, you know.
Mhm.
And I started agility with Cheyenne just to build our relationship because we had just adopted her. And turns out she was good at it. I'm not that great at it. But that really helped build our relationship too, just
Yeah.
getting out there and dedicating time to just practicing, because agility is something that you can't just, wing,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of those
Yeah.
sports you definitely don't want to just go.
Yeah. Let's just try,
Yeah.
It took me
I
like
do
2 years before I actually trialed. So
Yeah. I do agree with you, because even with Trin, who I so intentionally purchased, struggled so deeply to bond with her. And it was teaching her her first trick and sort of like really going out and starting to train with her that started to tip the scale. And
yeah.
that's really important. And I think also doing your research, whether you're going to get a rescue or you are going to get a purebred dog from someone ethical, understanding what you're getting, and then also understanding that there are still individual characteristics to those dogs. But if you live in a 800 square foot apartment, maybe a border collie, Australian cattle dog, or something along those lines is not the dog for you, unless you have a really, really specific plan on how to channel that dog's energy and get its needs met. And even a Rottweiler is going to fall into that category in most circumstances. So just really understanding what you're getting into and sort of having a plan that if you're going for one of those working breeds or breeds that have high energy, high drive, that you are going to need a place to channel that and to be able to let them be who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And as I'm thinking about it, actually, as because I like to process things here on the podcast. As I'm thinking about it, really sports is the reason, in a sense, that I felt like I had the resources to keep Jackson, because I really wanted him to go to a home with other dogs. I felt like I was cheating him if he didn't have a home with other dogs. I don't want other dogs. I know this is going to be weird for you to hear, Cady. I just want one dog.
Katie's like,
With
do
the
you
occasional
therapy? What is wrong with you?
the occasional foster thrown in, but I thought, he really needs that outlet of having multiple dogs in the home. And then with the doing dock diving, I was like, oh, maybe I could provide two or three play dates a week and do a sport with him. And then he still gets his needs met in a different way.
Yeah.
And you're also highlighting an adopted dog that's doing all these amazing things.
Yes, exactly.
Just saying. Just saying. So tell us, I don't know how many you're going to have, but what is a favorite or most memorable moment you've had with a dog on the dock?
So I guess I would say mostly just hitting new personal bests with my dogs. Shay hit 24-2 one event, and I was just blown away. I was like, and Keegan was actually holding her up there, and we were both just so excited, like, oh my gosh, she finally hit 24. And I think too, just like Ruger is set to get his Doc Senior Excellent 3 title and regionals this
That's a lot of
upcoming
jumps for listeners. That's a lot of jumps.
yeah,
Successful
you don't.
jumps. Successful
Yes,
jumps.
in the senior division, and as he ages, it gets even more special, because I'm just like, look, my 10-year-old dog can still jump over 15 feet, and he's still healthy enough, and he still wants to do this. And yeah, I think the bonding moments with my dogs, and just specifically like Ruger, and as they age, is really memorable to me, and just hitting those milestones. I mean, the titles and the ribbons are fun, but it's like we're out there for just the dogs. Then I know a lot of people say like, oh, it's all just, you know, you can't just say it's just for fun. You're competitive too. And I'm like, I am, but you know, I'm out here for the both of us. I do this. I spend all my money as this is my hobby, you know, like.
Yeah, when I met you and your husband for the first time, it was very clear to me that you literally do all of this for the dogs, that you're out here and you're their partners in this. It's not some trying to get this title or this and that, you know, like you said, that's all fun and well, but that you guys are really, really out here as a team. And it really does shine through.
Yeah, and it's fun too. Doing it with my husband has been really great for our relationship. And a little side note, we spend all of our time together because we also work together too. So so a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how do you spend so much time? I was like, well, this is what we love. This is what we enjoy doing. And it's our lifestyle. And I don't care if I don't travel. A lot of people are like, oh, what do you do when you have to travel? I'm like, well, I either take the dogs with me or I don't go. You know, so
I mean, really, you're just traveling for dog sports. So the dogs are going along.
for real. Yep, that's really much what it is. When we
Yeah.
do take a vacation to go see like my in-laws live in Michigan, it's always fun trying. Lucky that we have a friend that can watch all of them for us. But yeah, and it makes life difficult. It's not simple to just be like, hey, can somebody just watch 12 dogs for me while I go on vacation? But but you know, I enjoy it. I enjoy every day just making sure that they're well taken care of because I know I can provide a good home for them. So if I could do it for more, I would, but I can't. I joke with Keegan all the time. I'm like, I'll be a stay-at-home dog mom one day. I mean, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, and you've taken it to the next level too, because you created a business around the dog sports that you love to provide training tools for people that is already looped into the thing that, so you put a side hustle on top of your hobby, on top of your lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. Just adding one more thing to the, to the list.
I mean, why not?
Can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, my business name is Dozen Tails Designs. So you can understand there's 12. It's custom biothane dog gear. So biothane is PVC coated webbing that is stink proof, waterproof. So it's perfect. I was introduced to it from a trainer friend who used it, and then it's perfect for dog sports like dock diving because it can get wet. And I don't know if you've ever had a nylon collar before, but over the time that's on a dog, it can start to really smell. Growing up, I had collars for my dogs, and I was like, dang, they smell, and it's really not easy to clean it. And after being introduced to biothane, I was like, yep, this is all I'm going to use now.
Oh yeah, I'm all biothane all the time.
Yeah, it's super easy to use and it's fun. They have fun colors and yeah, and just getting, honestly, I started just buying the material because I was like, you know, I'm spending so much money buying collars from somebody else. I can just do it myself. And I was like, I'll just get a hammer and a punch and we'll just do it. I was doing it on my coffee table in the living room while watching TV.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of turned, like friends were like, well, will you make me a leash? Will you do this? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then it just kind of turned into this. I never in a million years thought it was going to be a business. I thought it was just going to be, oh, I'll just make my own dog stuff. And I'll occasionally make my friends some things. But I'm very, very lucky to have friends in the sport community and just on social media that promote me. And it's been a crazy experience, really has brought me out of my shell. I'm not the most outgoing person per se, but my dogs, working with dogs has helped me grow, but this business has helped me grow even more, even just taking constructive criticism and learning how to, as my husband says, bob and weave with all the different things that come up with, because dealing with people and customers and products and material that doesn't ship in time and all that, it's been really amazing for me, and just trying to promote myself too and being proud of the things that I produce. It really makes my day when people send me pictures of their dogs in my gear, and it's just like really exciting.
Yeah.
And I get like, I'm like, oh, thank you for loving my stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's easy for your friends in sports to promote your product because your products are really great quality and they're beautiful. So you are making it easier for people to promote the stuff.
Yeah, and my friends get mad at me too because I'll be like, "Look what I just made! Look at," and they're like, "Damn it, Katie! Now I have to buy that."
I mean, most sport people really do love their leashes and collars.
Yeah, and as somebody with a lot of dogs, every dog has a color, and every
Mhm.
dog has to have their own thing. We can't share
Yep.
leashes and all that stuff, you know.
I'm an anomaly in that I am not one of those people, but the aunties of my dogs force my dogs to have colors. So I
Yeah.
don't even select. I know Christy's like, yeah. I literally, when I get a new dog, I'm like, hey, can you guys just like decide what their color is?
Yeah,
Because
pick a color for them.
it's not me.
Oh my gosh.
But I do understand it. I do, because I am the anomaly.
So I was like meant to be in sports. I just didn't know it because I had those
Yes.
tendencies before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah, and one of the reasons I wanted a girl dog and not a boy dog was because girl dogs can wear pearls and blingy
Oh
pink
no, real men
rhinestones.
wear pink or bling is what I always say. I put
Yeah.
bling colors on my boys all the time.
I'm finding like turquoise and like browns work
Mhm.
really well for Jackson. So I'm playing
Oh.
around with that. Yeah.
Katie's gonna have to make him a nice biothane collar
Yeah, I was
for
gonna say I could
dock
send you a color
diving.
chart.
For dock
Ooh, yeah.
diving. Yes.
Yeah.
With
Mhm.
she makes them with handles
A
on them,
handle.
right? The handle
Yep.
thing is so
Oh,
cool. I
that's
The
love
handle
neat.
that.
colors are very helpful on the dock, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. We kind of
We
went off on a
went
little
off the
side
rails.
note there. That's fine. So if people are interested in the sport of dock diving, we know where they can get their collars and leashes. What should they do to learn about the sport? What is your suggestion?
I think the best way is to go to the NADD website, which is NorthAmericanDivingDogs.com. They have a list of all the facilities that host events in the US and I think even Canada too. And local here in Arizona, there's a facility in Tonopah called Tonopah's Canine Swim Center. That's where I do most of my competitions and practice because it's the closest dock to me per se, but I know there's one in Coolidge as well,
Mm-hmm.
Splashtown.
Which is where I
And I
go.
think,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's
and
where
I know,
Jackson's going.
yeah, and Sandy's great too. I think just finding a good person to introduce your dog to the water and to the pool is a great way to get started in the sport. If your dog's never swam before, I always suggest just getting them in a pool. Like go if you don't have one, going to a friend's house or sniff spot is also a great way
Yes.
to rent a facility per se
Mm-hmm.
to get your dog in the pool or even just go to a lake. I've had some friends say my dog was terrified of swimming in a pool, but going to the lake is simple and they'll just go swim in the lake and just teaching your dog to retrieve the toy. Because sometimes some dogs don't really understand the retrieve aspect of it. So
Mm-hmm.
just getting them used to going in the water, grabbing the toy and bringing it back. Because there have been instances where I've had to, show my dog, look, open your mouth and put the toy in your mouth. This is how we do it.
I must physically show you how to do this.
I had to do that for Pico. I had to do that for one of my other cattle dogs. Yeah,
Huh,
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah,
That's funny.
Like
Yeah.
I
I
could
know
teach
that
you how
is
to open your
funny.
mouth. But
Yeah.
you don't think about it, but then there's like people, the dogs that are out there, they're like, how do I open my mouth while I'm swimming?
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah. It's like teaching them that they can do it.
It's like walking chew gum at the same time. How do we do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
True. I think NADD has the most options across the country, so it's a good way to at least
Mhm.
get started and give you some ideas.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And to get into the sport itself, I didn't when I started, I actually Tonopahs wasn't even out here in Arizona when I first started.
Mm,
So I had to try and figure out a way to teach my dog how to jump off the dock. And I had gone to that training facility that was hosting classes. But now that
mm-hmm,
Tonopahs does exist, I always direct people
mm-hmm,
to them over there or to Sandy's if they're on the
mm-hmm,
east side, just to get to learn
mm-hmm.
how to do the sport and all that. And
Yeah.
being at training at the facility too that you're going to have your events at is kind of nice too to get your dog
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with the dock there
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, once Trin's consistently jumping at Sandy's, I'll be taking her to Tonopahs as well because that will
Mm-hmm.
be our home competition dock. So they need to
Yep.
learn to jump different
Yeah.
locations. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say the nice thing about having somebody who specializes in that training is sometimes I know how to break down a lot of behaviors into smaller pieces, but because I'm new to dock diving, I didn't know what the best next step was for Sandy's telling us, throw underhand so that the toy arches when it goes out. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I was just throwing it straight out. And she's like, it creates this drive, or, and she's able to break down those things. So that is really useful, I would say, going to someone who specializes in that.
The biggest thing I think I want people to take away from this episode is any dog from any origin, just go out and do shit with your dog. Look at Cady, look at Keegan. They're doing all the things with a variety of breeds from all different places, and just go out and discover what's fun with your dog. And don't be afraid. And if you're out in Arizona, look for all these different people we're introducing you to and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. Can you help me?
Well, and I love when people approach me and ask me for help, because I know what it's like to be new in sports and feeling like a little overwhelmed and not knowing all the rules and all that. And I'm happy to help and, share my knowledge in any way I can to make people, we need more people out in the dog sport world.
Yeah.
You see a lot of the same people all the time, and it's like, we need more new faces to keep this going.
Always, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have to have more of a community to keep it going. And if we want the
Yeah.
sports to be available more, there has to be more people doing it, because we're
Yep.
all doing this volunteer. You're not just competing, you're volunteering too. It doesn't run on its own. So
Right, exactly.
we're all doing it because we're passionate about it. So
Yeah.
We really appreciate you being willing to take time out of your day to talk to us and to introduce everybody to dock diving and all of your dozen dogs.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you just tell everybody on socials where they can find your business if they're interested in looking you up?
I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. It's at Dozen Tails Designs, spelled out. And yeah, that's a great way. I take all my orders through DM. So you just DM me on Instagram or Facebook, and we can discuss pricing, color, length, all that stuff. So happy to answer questions. No issue with that at all.
And we'll link your Instagram and your Facebook to the episode so that people can find you. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.